Hi everyone, I hope you're all good. I hope you've all had a good week and I'm back today with another tutorial for you. I thought I'd do something a bit more wearable, something that hopefully, if you have trouble putting makeup on for day-to-day life and you're just looking for something really easy but something natural and almost no makeup but makeup. It's nice and natural looking, it's pretty simple to do, and I thought I would show you how I do my makeup to look like I'm not really wearing any makeup. So I've started off with a cleaned and moisturised base, so I always clean with a low pH cleanser in the morning. I use a AHA toner from Cosrx, I'll link it down below if you're interested which one. And I also use the Ordinary's hyaluronic acid serum before I do anything to my face. So I used this, and then I went in with Beauty Bay's, this is First Class, the Rich Moisturiser with oatmeal and oatmeal lipids. I find it's not greasy and it's not overly tacky or anything like that, so if I want to put a primer over the top, it's absolutely fine to do so. All of the products that I'm going to use in today's video will be listed down in the description box as usual. If you want to use your own products to achieve this, I'm sure you can. I'm not saying that you have to use exactly what I've got here, but obviously if you're interested in any of them, they will all be linked down below as usual. So I'm going to start off with my usual primer, which is the Milk Hydrogrip primer. And even though I'm doing a very light base today, I still like to have that little bit of base to go down just for it to adhere to, and it all just sits really nicely on the skin for the rest of the day. I'm smoothing it into my face nicely so it's all evenly distributed and I haven't got any like lumps or clumps of it hanging around. I always do my concealer before doing any of my foundation or tinted moisturiser because I don't want the concealer to be overly detectable. So I feel it's always best to do it first, and then I can lightly buff in any foundation or tinted moisturiser around it to kind of hide that coverage look, if that makes sense. So I'm going to put a little dot here and a little dot here, and then any of my blemishes I pop a small amount onto, and we're going to buff the concealer in over the top of those in a second. I've got some hyperpigmentation from previous spots, so I like to cover that up. This is the Uoma Stay Woke concealer. I'm going to go in with my tried and trusted Sample Beauty Pitch Artistry dense concealer brush, and I'm just really taking my time to really buff it into the skin. I don't want it kind of layered on top, I want it to be an inclusion of my skin rather than a thick layer. I'm using a really minimal amount here as well, just enough to cover up those blemishes and under eye bags and things like that, but not so much that you can see that I've got product on the skin. Next I'm going to go in with my tinted moisturiser, and the one I'm using today is the Stay Naked Hydromaniac by Urban Decay. This is in the shade 20 Fair, and I'm just going to squeeze a bit of it onto the back of my hand. I don't want a great deal, but just over a pea-sized amount. And I know I said in a previous video I don't like foundation brushes, but what I've been doing lately is taking my tinted moisturiser or foundation, whichever you choose, and I've been kind of dotting it around with the foundation brush first, and then I'll take a dampened beauty blender and I will really lightly blend it into the skin. I'm deliberately going around my tattoos today because unfortunately one of my biggest tells if I'm wearing a lot of makeup or foundation is if this tattoo disappears. So to keep it looking as natural as possible, I'm going to go around it as best as I can. By taking a dampened beauty blender, particularly with a product like the one that I'm using today, it really allows you to fully blend it into the skin without any excess product kind of in any thick layers or anything like that, and you can really kind of smooth it around your skin's texture. If you're going to use foundation, particularly for this kind of an effort at makeup, I wouldn't use anything with a matte finish, because naturally our skin texture isn't usually matte. And I mean, if you want to use a matte foundation, use a matte foundation by all means. But I find that the most skin-like texture, the most real skin-like texture would either be a dewy finish foundation or a tinted moisturiser like the one I'm using today. I find with this tinted moisturiser it's really good because you can, if you want to, you can build up coverage in areas that you feel like you need that higher coverage, but it also still shows through the skin's texture, but in a non-unflattering way. You know, you can still see your skin's texture and like a bit of colour showing through it, so it's like a really light coverage. To be honest, if you've got really good skin and you feel confident enough, you could completely skip this step and just wear like a really nice primer, which sometimes I will do. But on days like today where I feel like I want a little bit of coverage because I feel like it's needed, then I will use this tinted moisturiser. Next, I'm going to take a cream contour stick, and this is my usual go-to Anastasia Beverly Hills contour stick in the shade Fawn. And when I'm contouring, I'm only going from here to here. I'm not bringing it down to my mouth, I'm not bringing it up here because that will make my cheeks look a lot larger and rounder. So I'm just going to be contouring here to here. Just do a line like that, and the same on the other side. I like to do a little tiny bit under my lip there. I dot it across my jawline, and I do a bit around the top of my forehead. I'm going to take a buffing brush. This is just the masked buffing brush, and I'm going to lightly buff that all into the skin. You can kind of stipple it on as well if you like. Because of the finish of this tinted moisturiser, you can really nicely work the contour into the tinted moisturiser without it separating and moving it around the skin. It has a really nice finish to it. It doesn't kind of dry down and set, but it also, after a while, feels like part of your skin. It doesn't feel greasy and just kind of layered on the top. When choosing a contour, it's a really good idea, it depends on your skin tone. If you're like me and you're quite fair skinned but you have some neutral undertones, it's a good idea to pick a contour stick that isn't too warm in shade. You don't want to go completely cool tone. If anything, you want to go slightly neutral, which if you're looking for a contour shade that does that, then this is definitely a good one. But obviously depending on your skin tone, if you're olive toned, then you probably want a more warm toned contour stick. But the idea is that contour shouldn't be like bronzer. It should literally mimic the colours of the shadows on our face, and the shadows on our face aren't brown or bronze at all. And that's what it looks like. Next, I'm going to be taking, so this is the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Beauty Light Wand, and this is in the shade Spotlight. And it is a cream highlight, so it'd be nice and natural. We don't want like a powdery look to the skin. And I'm just going to dot it across the tops of my cheekbones there, a little bit here, a little bit on my nose, and anywhere else where my face tends to catch the light. This could be different for you because we all have different faces, but I've just popped it into the places that I know mine does. And then with my finger, I'm just going to really lightly tap it in. I'm not smearing and pushing it around, I'm just really lightly tapping it over the top of the makeup that I've already done. Like that. If you're like me and you have face tattoos, when I get to the end of doing my base makeup, I'll take a cotton bud and I will remove any makeup that's over the top of them. It's really light finger movements. Just little taps because you don't want to disturb any of the makeup that you've already worked on. Next, I'm going to take some blush. I'm going to take this peachy one here because it goes with the undertone of my skin tone really well. This is by Wet n Wild, and this is the blush in the shade Nudist Society. I'm going to take that on a angled blush brush, and I want to take a really, really light hand and just gently tapping it to kind of marry into where the contour is, but also include the highlight. But you don't want to go nuts, and if anything you want it to be really diffused, and you don't want it to be obvious that you're wearing blush, but it's nice to have a bit of colour there. I do like to set my face, however I don't like to bake or use a heavy foundation powder or anything like that. I always use a finishing powder, and the one I've been using at the moment is this NYX one here, HD finishing powder, and I'll take that on a domed fluffy brush, and I'm taking the lightest hand possible. I'm only gently pressing it onto the skin where I know that later on I'm going to get oily whether I like it or not. And you really don't want a lot of this, you just really gently want to tap it over. If you're not an oily skinned person and you don't need to set everything into place, then you could get away with not doing this step. But if you're like me, and by the end of the day the makeup does want to try and move and separate, just take a little bit of this translucent finishing powder or something similar and just gently set it into place. If you find you've gone a bit heavy-handed, which I sometimes do, don't worry, because right at the end we're going to do a setting spray, so that should help to put some of the moisture back into the base makeup. Next we're going to do our brows. I've always used a brow pomade. This is the ABH brow pomade. If you use powders or pencils or anything like that, whatever you use is absolutely fine. I'm just going to show you how I do it personally, but don't take it as gospel. If you would be more comfortable doing your brows the way you normally do, then go ahead and do that. It's absolutely fine. And these steps, not all of these steps are 100% necessary. So I am taking a angled brow brush. This is the Beauty Bay 212. I'm taking the smallest amount of pomade on the back of my hand. So how I do my brows. So when I get to I always do the inner portion first, and I don't really know why, I just always have. And I will gently push the hairs up. I'm kind of mapping out this front part, but I'm not being completely blunt with the brush here, because I'm going to go in with some concealer and neaten it up shortly. So it's not 100%, it's not necessary that part's super neat. The part that I like to have quite framed is the tail part of my brow. So once I get past the arch, this is when I start to create my shape. And it doesn't matter if I'm not overly neat in this area here, because that's where I'm going to use the concealer. I have always done my brows overly bold over the years. I've never really been one for an overly natural brow, but in a minute I'm going to show you how I soften that and make it appear slightly more natural and in-fitting with the kind of look that we're doing today. Okay, on the back of my hand I have a little amount of this Stay Woke concealer from Uoma Beauty, and I'm going in with a Sample Beauty PB07 flat synthetic brush, and I'm taking the tiniest amount just on the tip of that brush. And again, this is optional, but this is how I prefer to have a nice, neat but natural looking brow. I'm just gently running the tip of the brush right underneath like that. And then what I start to do is blend that concealer down, because I don't want like an obvious, sometimes you get like a bit of product build up underneath the line where it's been on the tip of the brush and it just really stands out. Just gently blending that down. And you can also cover up any stray eyebrow hairs that you forgot to pluck out before. And it should look like that. Next, I'm going to take some brow gel. Now, this is a solid brow gel. It's the ABH Brow Freeze. There are other brands that you can buy of stuff that's similar to this. Excuse my nails, they are minging. I need to sort them out. There are other brands that make similar products to this, but I personally prefer to use a more solid brow gel than like a liquid clear brow gel, because the holding power is a lot better, and I can really push these hairs up to give my brow hairs a more kind of fluffy and defined look rather than this block brow we've got going on. So I've taken that onto a spoolie, and all I'm going to do is push the hairs upwards, doing it all across, and it really softens out the brow. So even though I've got this really nice manicured end and I've got this kind of sharp line underneath, it just gives the illusion of a much more natural, unruly brow. Like that. Next, I'm going to put on some mascara. So today I'm using Urban Decay's Lash Peversion mascara. A really good tip from me to you is that I no longer buy full-size mascaras, because I find that with their expiry time, so you get 6 months usually with mascara. By the time I've got to 6 months, I'm not even halfway through the tube. So I always buy minis and I save my money. So I'm using a fibre mascara today, like with like a fibre tip like this. Usually I like to use a plastic tip with like a comb or a brush style wand, but because I want my lashes to be super natural looking, I don't want any kind of excess product hanging around, whereas normally I don't mind it. But today I just want that really light natural coating. I really love Urban Decay's Lash Freak mascara. I find that one gives me the separation, the length and the volume that I'm looking for. It's not the most natural of mascaras, but it definitely gives you that impact. Like sometimes I don't even need to wear false lashes, it's that good. I don't do any on my bottom line unless I'm wearing eyeliner or eyeshadow, because I find that it does break down throughout the day and I will have like a bit of a black smudge underneath my eyes, so I'm going to leave it there and just do top lashes. Next I'm going to do my lips. So I would usually opt for a lip balm or something like that, but if you're wanting to wear something, you know, a bit more makeup than lip balm, you could go in with a lipstick. Over the years, I've discovered that this particular shade of lipstick by MAC is pretty much identical, if not a tiny bit darker than my natural lip colour. So if I just want to do a simple nude lip with an extravagant eye, or a day like today where I just don't really want to look like I want to look good, but I don't want to look like I'm wearing makeup, then I'll go for this one. So this is in the shade Yash, and I'm going to put it on like I normally would. But we're not going to keep this clean edge here. So what I like to do is take my fingertip and soften the edges ever so slightly. You can kind of pat it in, just so you don't have that really like harsh line across the edge. Just gently tap it in with my finger and just leave it like that. This is a matte lipstick, but if you wanted to use like a cream sheen or a satin finish or something like that, then you absolutely could. To finish it all off, I'm going to go in with my Urban Decay All Nighter setting spray. And that just helps to really lock everything in. And I'm not wearing a lot of liquid or powder on my face, but the little makeup that I am wearing, it just gives me that kind of peace of mind that there's a bit of stability there, even though I'm not wearing like a high coverage foundation. And that's the tutorial done, guys. I hope you enjoyed watching this. It's nothing particularly revolutionary, and I'm sure lots of people do their makeup like this anyway, but I just wanted to share with you a couple of little tips and ways that if you just get those days where you can't be bothered to do like a full face or a full look, but you want to wear something and just to feel a little bit insecure about your skin or anything like that, which you shouldn't be, you absolutely shouldn't be, but I just find there's some days like today where I don't really want to wear a ton of makeup on my face, but I just want to feel good and just, you know, have a bit of something on. But to anybody else, I could potentially look like I'm not wearing anything. That's if they didn't know that I had no eyebrows in real life. Yeah. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a like. It really helps out my channel and I super appreciate it. Every Tuesday I sit down and do my makeup whilst talking about conspiracy theory, so if that sounds like something you could be interested in, be sure to hit the subscribe button to see more videos like this as well as my other future content. And I hope you have a nice week. I hope everything goes well for you. Stay safe, look after one another, and I'll be back with another video soon. Thank you. Bye.